Hello everyone, and now welcome to Game 5 in a best of 5 series. Game 4, a true nail-biter up until the very end. Both sides looking like they had the advantage, and one of the main indicators to determine who is in the lead was actually very wrong. Mana losing over 30 workers and not really killing any workers was able to even up the series in game 4 at 2 games apiece, forcing a game 5. Now, is Strelok perhaps a little bit on tilt after what I believe he thought was throwing the game away? It looked like everything was going so well for him up until the very end. Now, Mana down over here as the red Protoss just going to be continuing to chrono boost out more units and perhaps go for that standard gateway assimilator pylon build before setting up a nexus. Now, we have seen Strelok go with two styles of opening, either one racks expand or gas into and expand a little bit later, but this time Strelok actually opening up with perhaps a 16 command center. 16 command center, a very economically greedy build here on Metropolis. And Mana now himself, where is his extra pylon? I don't see it yet. I really don't see it yet. So he's seen that 16 over 18. He has not started warping in on extra pylon. This is not just my imagination. And it looks like he is actually going to go into 17 over 18, start a nexus. This is going to be a 1 gate expand. And without that pylon, he is going to be behind a little bit economically. You can see that he made sure that there are no proxy barracks here before setting up that nexus. He's sitting at 18 over 18 right now. Should be setting up a pylon here and now starting his scouting routine. Strelok already, however, started his own command center, his own expansion much earlier. So there should be a slight economic advantage there. Before the command center is able to upgrade to an orbital command. Now, 2 barracks are being placed down. Most likely we will see a bunker here. And that means that both sides are not going to be able to do that much damage to each other in the very beginning. Now, so far, in many of the games, Mana has actually walked out with a scouting stalker and ended up losing that scouting stalker to Hellions. That's not something that I would have expected to see once, let alone twice in the series. And we'll see if Mana does that again. He does want to get a little bit of map control. He does want to get a sense of what's going on in the game, but you cannot end up sacrificing that early stalker, as that really puts you behind in those small engagements where every unit matters. Now, also one thing that I will make a note of from Strelok is that Strelok rarely ever builds an additional command center early on. A lot of Terran players often will build a command center here just so that they can saturate their mineral line faster. Now, that may be a strategy more common against, say, Zerg players who they need to catch up, but in the same way, it's effective against Protoss, since you know the Protoss isn't going to be that aggressive early on. There is that bunker. More Marines are being added. We can see a little bit of a swap around. We are adding a tech lab and now a reactor as well. Strelok sitting at 30 over 38. Mana sitting at 36 over 44. As we are now going into that robotics facility. Mana, perhaps assuming that his opponent is going to try to be going for... Actually, he doesn't know when the gas was taken, so he could have assumed that perhaps his opponent is going to be trying to go for fast cloaked Banshee play, and he wants to be well aware of it before anything happens. Zealots are out on the field. We can see that there is that one stalker that he does use in order to do a bit of scouting, but we are going into reactor Hellions. I don't see a factory on the field yet, so I don't believe we have to worry about that for Mana. Mana now backing away, realizing that there is a bunker there. Is he going to perhaps poke at the destructible debris? No, he is not. Just sitting outside, wanting to see if any Hellions or any units try and slip by. At this time, it looks like Mana wants to take down these destructible rocks and attempt to take an additional expansion here. Expanding perhaps sometime around the 8-minute mark, 8 to 9-minute mark, any earlier. And I think that would be cutting a little bit too many corners, as we still have no idea what's going on inside his base. By the time the observer of Mana goes inside Strelok's base, he'll see that it's not very, it's still very heavily saturated. There's still a lot of SCVs being trained up. It's not a complete conversion into an all-in strategy. We may see that Nexus being thrown down here. All right, the observer is now making its way in. The timing should be that the Nexus should be warping in just a moment, but we do see Marines now making their way out. The Zealot, however, not keeping track of the mini-map, and it may actually get taken down. No concussive shells, though, as the Marauder was still able to get the last shot off on the back. Here we have Stalkers and Sentries making their move out. The Zealot is backing off here. I believe there was an observer on the field. Yes, there is one right there keeping track of everything, as Strelok is looking to do perhaps a 1-0 timing attack with mass Marines. The answer will be Colossus, and if 2 Colossus do enter in the field, those Colossi should be able to eat through the Marines quickly enough. Even though Combat Shield is now being researched, well, a little bit of a whistle there. Even though Combat Shield is being researched, the robotics facility training up to Colossus should be able to end up dealing a lot of damage to those Marines there. You can see even more production of barracks at this point, as a Nexus is now being placed down, or has been placed down and should be operational momentarily. All right, these rocks have gone. Are we perhaps going to see a bit of a wall here? I don't think so. And now we see these Marines and the Marauders are on the move. Double medevacs now being trained. There will be a total of 4 in this next engagement, as Strelok has a slight supply advantage. No chrono boost now onto that robotics facility, but is it going to be too little too late? I had thought that Mana would have started this one Colossus a bit earlier, and because it is late, that may spell the difference. Strelok is going to come in here with superior numbers, superior upgrades, and at least for a good minute and a half. The Colossus now needs to be chrono boosted out. There's plenty of energy. I'm not quite sure why Mana is not doing it. He has the timing now to do it, and it would have been 10 seconds faster. All right, scanner sweep. Strelok actually giving Mana a little bit more time than he should at this stage, and because of this, the second Colossus will come out, and with that second Colossus, I believe Mana is in good position. Weapons upgrade is about to complete. Armor upgrade is about to complete. They just need a chrono boost or 2. That is what we're seeing here, as we now see Stalkers engaging against all the Marines and Marauders here. A beautiful elevator drop into position, as we are seeing some Marines and Marauders now gather up in the front. Stalkers are now trapped in a corner. What is going to be happening here, as all the medevacs are now trying to get away, and it looks as though we may have an engagement in the front. Stalkers are staying behind in order to clean up those medevacs. Meanwhile, there are still Vikings off here. In the front, Marines are now making their way over to the third base, and this is going to be easy pickings, as the medevacs, these 3 medevacs, are causing so many problems. Another drop now up onto the high ground here. Marines and Marauders are coming down, and this small tactical force hitting in multiple locations, causing so many problems. One medevac does go down, as the second medevac goes down as well. The Marines and Marauders pretty much have no follow-up plan, but Mana is now down to 199 supply compared to Strelok's 127. The Colossus a little bit too slow. Probes now trying to make their way over. There's the force fields, but the medevac is able to still lift them away, as the Marines and the Marauders are now going to come in and snipe down the Nexus. Marines and the Marauders are off over here, going to take whatever building they can and force the Colossi to make their way back over here, as we now see another engagement. One Colossi has been split. The Marines and the Marauders are engaging, but a new wave of reinforcements coming in from Strelok, and Strelok is going to clean this all up. The Marines and the Marauders are simply too much in number, and I believe with this Nexus down, and pretty much no mining going on inside the main base, Mana is very just up a creek without a paddle. All right, Vikings now trying to hunt down this last Colossus here. The Colossus going to be getting off some shots onto those units. There was a feedback onto the medevac, and a beautiful play here. Strelok really somehow extending this fight much longer than I thought possible. The medevacs are pretty much out of energy, but still able to do a little bit of healing, and Strelok found just the perfect timing and was able to actually break Mana's line. Now, we have seen Mana come back in other games, but now that the Vikings are now in ground mode, the Vikings rather tanky and pretty effective against Archon since they are not bio units. Are we going to perhaps see more of these units fall? Vikings now back in the air. The Marauders and the Marines have reinforced again, and these Vikings are just adding a slight amount of additional DPS. Their DPS is actually higher than that of a Stalker against anything, as this Archon now only has 10 more hit points. Alright, Vikings are still engaging here. That Archon is gonna, if it makes its way over, will just get shot down there very easily. And a small force here still causing problems. Viking is gonna get taken down by probes as we now see the GG come in from Mana. And game 5 goes to Strelok for a very, very effective multi-prong harass here on Metropolis. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.